إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يقول الحق سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المبين بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Praise and glory be to God, the cherisher, sustainer, and king of the worlds, and peace and blessings be upon his noble prophets and messengers. So welcome, brothers, to Khutbah number 3. And this week has unfortunately started off in a very tragic fashion. So on May 24th, a young man who had just recently turned 18, who on his 18th birthday went and purchased some weapons of mass destruction, some rifles. This young man woke up on May 24th, and he was frustrated with his grandmother, and so he took one of these weapons and shot his grandmother. Now his rampage did not end there. He got into a truck and drove recklessly to, one would think, maybe his school, maybe where he was bullied, and he wants to go back and seek revenge. No. He did not go to his school. He went to an elementary school. Elementary, my kids are in elementary, ages 6, 7, 8, and I'm sure for those of you who have kids, I think you have kids, brother, that around that age, inshallah, you'll get kids as well. But he went to an elementary school, young kids, and he got out of his vehicle, went into the school, barricaded himself, and killed 19 students, 19 children, and 2 adults. 21 people he killed that day. Now, God only knows what went through his mind. Maybe violent video games. He's been playing violent video games through his life, maybe. I don't know. Maybe free access to the internet. You can get anything and everything with the push of a button. Maybe he was brainwashed online, perhaps. Easy access to alcohol, drugs, maybe. Or maybe a group of bad friends. Now, whatever it is, praise be to God that our children are immune to this. And I say this with sarcasm, because our children have the same access to the same internet. They have the same access to these violent video games. They have the same access to drugs and alcohol. And they also have the same access to potentially the wrong crowd. So brothers, if you think that our children are immune, then think again. And the question that I ask myself first, but as well as you, is what do we need to do to ensure that our children, our young ones, have the minimum amount of faith, not the faith of Abu Bakr and Umar. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the minimum amount of faith to lead a righteous life, to be able to give back to society, to add value to humanity. What do we need to do to ensure that? We need to be strategic. We need to be wise. We need to be flexible. We need to inspire. And On the note of inspiration, I'm reminded of a story that happened to me a couple of years ago. I was in Toronto, and Isha prayer had called, and I was, wanted to go pray at a mosque. So I drove to the closest mosque in the area, and it was typical of mosques you see in North America, small, cozy, and attended mainly by males aged 40 and above. So I went into the mosque, prayed 2 rak'ahs, of Sunnah, Tahiyat al-Masjid, sat down and waited for the Iqamah. Now, as the time for Iqamah came, a robust man, quite a lengthy beard, he stood up at the front and prompted the Iqamah. So the Iqamah started to happen, and as the Iqamah was happening, a young man, 12, 13 years old, young boy, dashes by me, zooms by me, and he makes his way to the front row. Nice smile, very energetic. I smiled when I saw him. Very energetic boy. I was very impressed. Anyways, the Iqamah finished. The robust Imam of the mosque, mashallah, he stands and he scans the front row. Like an eagle scanning the savannah for its prey, he notices the young boy. And with the flick of a finger, he points to the back. And so the boy, saddened, puts his head to the floor, and goes back. Now, this story reminds me of a story of a man who lived 1400 years ago. Very similar situation. Very similar. And this man was named Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And this prophet of God was sitting amongst a group of his companions, and he had a jug filled with a beverage. And so he wanted to pass this jug around. So he looks to his right, and there's a young boy sitting to his right, and to his left are some elders. Now this man, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he taught us to start with the right. So he looks to him, and he says, imagine, he asks the young boy, he says, will you allow me to start with the elders? Right? Today, we look at our young children, we don't even care. Take his opinion or her opinion? Really? So he asks him, will you allow me to start with the elders? Now the boy was a very intelligent boy. And what was probably going on in his head was, I'm second in line to the prophet of God, the final messenger, and you want me to give up that spot for somebody else? And so the boy responded to the prophet. He said, no, I will take after you. And so the prophet laughed, and he handed him the jug. Now, what do you think happens when you treat children with such respect? Open up the history books, and you will see what happens when you treat children with such respect. We need to inspire our younger generations. They are living in challenging times, very challenging times. If we do not speak to them with, in the back of our minds, how do we inspire them every single time we speak to them? What can I say to draw them closer? What can I say to bring them to righteousness? When they are faced with so much tribulation, so much evil at the tip of their fingers, like this, how do we inspire? This is a question we must think about. I must think about. You must think about. We must think about it collectively. Because if we do not, and if we do not do so strategically, with wisdom and flexibility, we will lose them. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو التواب الرحيم.